Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. This is kind of another Will YouTube Nuke It? Because YouTube had taken down, they didn't just stop it. I couldn't even download it to edit it and post it in bits and pieces. They said it's misinformation, despite the fact that I provided my sources. So I'm doing separate videos about experimentation on live fetuses. And, okay, is this the part that's misinformation, YouTube? You tell me. So while I was looking for things to share so that I could have some sources, I found an article on jstor.org. You can register for free and you can read articles for free. This article is called Fetal Experimentation, Moral, Legal, and Medical Implications by Gary L. Reback, R-E-B-A-C-K, published in the Stanford Law Review, May 1974. And this guy was very, very much in favor of these experiments. This guy was practically waving pom-poms and shouting, we should be celebrating these, okay? So this isn't some pro-lifer who's going, these are awful, we need to not do these, it's macabre, it's like the Nazis. No, this is somebody who's like, you got a problem if you got a problem with this. So I'm not going to cover the whole thing, I don't think. But we'll just kind of look down. And so he talks a bit about abortion procedures. They're done a bit differently nowadays than they were back in '74. So, he admits something that, first of all, I want to bring up. He says, the viable fetus, an unusual occurrence. The controversy over fetal experimentation rarely extends to viable fetuses, perhaps because few abortions in the United States are performed upon viable fetuses. Depends on how you want to count unusual. If you want to count compared to the overall number of abortions, yeah, it's small. But you could also say that Jeffrey Dahmer only killed a very small number of gay men in Milwaukee. So what's the big deal? If you look at the absolute numbers, you might be a bit appalled about how many. And if you want to know how many, you can ask. In fact, in order to protect a fetus which may have developed to the point of viability, amniocentesis and injection of hypertonic saline is not advised after the 24th week of pregnancy. However, it is not unusual for a pregnancy to be 4 or more weeks more advanced than the physician estimates. As a result, a number of 28-week gestations have been terminated by saline abortion, sometimes producing the birth of a living child. So, for those of you who are saying, oh, they're never born alive, they've been being born alive as long as abortions have been deliberately done near or after viability. And as this guy's noting, oops, screwed up there. This one was further along than I thought. He says most of these children die shortly after the abortion. Well, yeah, if you just wrap them in a towel and stick them in the closet instead of take them to the NICU, they're gonna die. Or unless you strangle them in the nursery like, what's his name, William Waddle did. So here we've got an admission by somebody who is vociferously in favor of abortion. This guy loves him some abortion. Admitting that, yeah. So he talks about hysterotomy, which is a process like birth by cesarean section. And he says, unlike other common abortion procedures, hysterotomy normally produces a live fetus, that is, an intact fetus with a heartbeat, whose stage of development depends upon the length of gestation. Likewise, a new mid-trimester abortion procedure, intravenous injection of prostaglandin, induces contraction of the uterus and may also produce a living intact fetus. Now, even though hysterotomy is not used anymore and they don't use prostaglandin anymore, induction abortions have become favorable again, but what they do is they use ultrasound to inject poison generally into the fetal heart, sometimes into the fetal brain. Typically I guess technically I shouldn't say poison. It's an overdose of cardiac medication. It's the same kind of drugs that are used in executions. And I find it really interesting that the same people who pitch a hissy fit that it's cruel and unusual punishment to anesthetize a quadruple murderer, and after he's anesthetized, inject these drugs into an IV and stop his heart, think it's perfectly fine when this baby has had no anesthesia to take one of those gigantic syringes and poke it right into the baby's heart and pump it full of that cardiac material. If somebody can explain to me why that is way, 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 way too cruel, inhumane, absolutely intolerable to do it to somebody who has committed murder, generally heinous murders, torture, killing an entire family, but for some baby whose only crime is having a disability or having a mother who changed her mind about wanting it, or basically being where somebody else put it, why is that absolutely perfect, humane, beautiful? It's a thing we should be doing. Somebody explain that to me. And then he looks at what do you do if you wind up with the dreaded complication. Now, he says, although hysterotomy is occasionally medically indicated, it has been suggested that such operations are sometimes performed in order to procure a live fetus for research purposes. Hysterotomies generally have been performed at a point in the gestation period, resulting in fetuses which have discernible heartbeats but are non-viable, at least under normal procedures. And I will link below to a video I just did about doing these hysterotomy abortions and experimenting on the fetus. And he says, there are several things a physician can do when confronted with such a fetus. And notice it's been born, but he's still calling it a fetus. One option is to use conventional procedures to save the life of the aborted product of a hysterotomy. Now, generally, if you cut a woman open and you take the entity out, at that point, it's a baby. But no, it's the aborted product. However, since the fetus is probably early in its gestation period, such procedures would undoubtedly result in the fetus's death. Well, conventional procedures, and I've talked about this in the Born Alive Infants Protection type videos I've done. Caring for a baby that survives an abortion, what the pro-lifers are pushing for is not, we go above and beyond an extra far more than we would do under other circumstances just because the baby survived an abortion. It's, no, you look at the baby and you might go, oops, thought this baby had a life-ending disability, but turns out this baby's perfectly healthy other than the fact that I made it come out 2 months early. You treat it just like you would treat a baby who came out because of an accident, because of an illness. Alternatively, a physician could attempt, turning the page, to save the fetus's life by unconventional and experimental medical procedures. Now, these are the experiments. I did one video about one of them, and I might do about more of them, where they just, how long can I keep this fetus alive so that we can then use this information to save preemies of this age whose mothers didn't want them to die, basically. And it's, to me, it's a matter of, are you trying to save the baby's life, or are you just, hey, cool, let's see if this will work. And I got to be fair to the author of this paper. He wasn't taking this, ooh, cool, let's see if this will work attitude. He was taking the, hey, you're going to throw them away anyway. You might as well learn something valuable that you could use to save a baby whose mother doesn't want it dead. So, he's looking at this as an option for, oops, guess the gestational age wrong. Sorry about that. That you could use experimental procedures. And I think that would be okay if you were using the experimental procedure with the intent that I made a mistake. And now it's my duty to try to save this baby if I can. But nobody is really advocating for doing this. We are not advocating for treating an abortion survivor differently than we would treat a baby born under any other circumstances at that gestational age. Finally, a physician could treat a fetus in a manner that would not be designed to save its life, perhaps would almost certainly cause its death, but would provide meaningful results for saving lives of other fetuses and prospective mothers, and for preventing and treating diseases generally. So you can see here from his tone that he's very much in favor of that. Hey, you know, you got them, might as well experiment on them. So I'm going to end this video here. Just what do you think of, was this surprising to any of you that abortions are done at, near, and past viability, that babies do sometimes survive, and that pro-choice people were calmly, oh, what should we do with them? Might as well experiment on them. Tell me below, as long as YouTube doesn't nuke this.